Welcome to Leadership Unveiled, a podcast series that explores the minds and journeys of the pioneering leaders, entrepreneurs making waves in the business world. I'm your host, Neha Jagnani, and today we are in for a treat. Our guest today is a dynamic finance leader driving growth, efficiency, and inclusion while shaping workplaces that thrive on equity, innovation, and impact. Welcoming Kamini Shah. Kamini is the Chief Financial Officer and Executive Board member at Birlasoft. She has 25 plus years of experience in finance, supply chain, commercial, and business planning across Fortune 500 companies. A chartered accountant, she excels in financial management, performance optimization, and process design. Kamini has led global teams, driving efficiency, growth, and profitability. Beyond her CFO role, she champions DEI at Birlasoft as the executive sponsor of the DEI Council, fostering an inclusive and equitable workforce. Kamini, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure having you.
And Neha, thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really happy to have an opportunity to share my thoughts and have this conversation with you. It's been a great journey, a great ride. I think every opportunity provides you a learning arena for yourself, and I've been very fortunate enough to have many of those. So we can get started on this.
Fantastic, Kamini. Thank you so much. To begin with, my first question for you, Kamini, is finance is often considered as the backbone of strategic decision making, Kamini. So I want to know, how do you ensure financial leadership aligns, with the long-term business growth at Birlasoft?
So, Neha, the way it works, right? You're absolutely right. I think gone are the days when finance used to be looked at a bookkeeping function, somebody who made sure that after the business transactions are completed, ensure compliance is in place, everything is in place. But today, if you really look at it, the way we work at Birlasoft is that we are very much involved in the entire strategic direction of the organization. So, with the CEO and working with the business leaders, we actually craft, what is the strategy that the organization is going to get at, what is the kind of transformation that we want to drive at, and how do we really put the rigor in terms of making sure that whatever business plan we've set for ourselves, how do we enable that? So there are really conversations around what kind of investments we need to make, where do we make that investments, are these the growth areas that we should be focusing on? And finance works extremely closely with the business leaders in terms of designing it, right? So once you have the entire strategic roadmap in place, then we really look at how do we actually put the entire rigor and governance in terms of executing to the plan? And then we have my team who work shoulder to shoulder with the business leaders, working with them very closely in terms of as we execute the plan. Definitely, I need to keep my CFO hat on board, and which is where we make sure that the risk lens is very integrated with business in terms of how we look at every opportunity and making sure that we've taken care of the risk and the compliance areas. And that's how we work very closely with the business leaders to make sure that we are just not a back end function, but we work with them very closely in terms of defining and executing this.
Fantastic. That's a great perspective, Kamini. It shows how finance function has clearly gone beyond numbers and how it is contributing to the overall business growth. Thank you so much for that. So my next question to you is, Kamini, you emphasize on nurturing high-performing teams. So I want to know, what is your approach in building and sustaining strong finance teams?
Neha, if you really look back, all of us, if somebody has trust and confidence in us and has our back, I think we do very well, right, as individuals. And I think I've just followed that very simple rule as far as my teams are concerned. Uh, Birlasoft, what we really do is, I think we have a good mixture. We have people who've grown with the organization, which means they started literally, they've joined us just after their university, and they have started with the organization. So we've given them multiple opportunities that come along the way, and they have grabbed every opportunity. And that way, we have people who stayed with the organization for a very long time, right? So that's one part where people stay with the organization, they grow with the organization, they learn with the organization, and they contribute very closely. To make sure that we continuously have an infusion of new talent and new ideas that come in, we also have people who join us at a lateral level at multiple stages in their career paths, right? So you have people who probably join us at a middle level management or a senior level management. What they do essentially is to challenge the existing processes, the way we work as a finance organization, and create a blend of financial experience that we bring in. So if you really look at my team, I think I would have probably team people who are equally distributed between the two. But as a leader, one thing that I nearly ensure, and this is something that I've had the opportunity to do when I started my career, one is I think you bet on the person, right? We never look at 100% fit on whether the person can do the job or not. And if you bet on individuals, I've always found in most cases they actually rise to the occasion. So that's one thing that I definitely do as far as my team is concerned. I've had the advantage when I joined my first organization, Hindustan Weaver. There were many times where I was not ready for the roles, and they said, we trust in you, Kamini, just go ahead and do it. And you find that you do a lot more than what is expected out of it because of that. The second thing that I just spoke about when I started is, I trust my teams implicitly. I tell them that, I believe you in whatever decisions that you take. I'm sure you do it for the organization. Will back you on every decision that you take. I think creating that kind of, an environment enables people to do their best. Last but not the least, I think it's a lot of a combination of on-job training that people get an opportunity to. Plus, also we make sure that people have the advantage of learning specialized skill sets where we find there are gaps. I think a combination of all of these, Neha, really helps us to create the right level teams. I think it's all about challenging them. It's all about creating the environment for them and giving them opportunities. And I think teams will just do extremely well. And I think as a leader, you have a much better role, a much more easier lifestyle if you have the right team supporting you in this journey.
Fantastic. That's a wonderful approach, Kamini. Especially the bit you mentioned about betting on individuals, and of course, on-job trainings makes it even more amazing for individuals and contributing to the long-term success. Thank you so much. My next question for you is, with digital transformation reshaping finance, Kamini, what are some of the emerging trends you see that are playing a critical role for the future of the financial leadership?
So, Neha, the way I look at it as finance folks, we should not resist technology. If anything, finance has been the forefront of adapting technology as they come in. And if I were to step back, not just from my current role, have you seen it across, right? If you look at shared services center, finance has been the forefront to go and create shared services centers, COEs, to make sure that there were benefits that came in earlier into the organization. And today, in our processes, we have really adopted RPA in a big way to make sure that a lot of repetitive tasks actually get automated. Today, we are also looking at AI. I think is a big lever. AI provides that insight because right now it is a lot around automation. I think we are focusing a lot on AI insights, and there are multiple areas in which we have actually adopted it. If you look at smart contracts, today our entire contract management aspect, we've created a AI element to it that give insights to people. You look at the way we are trying to create insights for people in terms of the way they can do it. I believe that data has to be democratized in a manner that it is available across the organization. And if you really create the element of AI on top of it, you will find that it's just not about finance. It's about every leader in the organization who will have access to information and who can make timely decision making. They don't really need to wait for the finance person to tell them how they are doing. So that's really the approach that we are taking in Birlasoft. We have actually embarked on a transformation program. It's currently underway. Our objectives of the program are primarily what we spoke about. I said data democratization to make sure data is available for everybody to use to run their businesses. The second aspect of what we are really looking at the fact is that, then finance becomes a true enabler, helping them to achieve their objectives rather than spending their time in just providing information together. I think these are some of the things that we have done. We are looking at opportunities across, I would say, every processes within the organization that can be automated. The idea is to make life easy for people to work within the organization and really focus on what makes sense from their standpoint. And that's really been our approach, Neha, that we are taking at this point of time.
Fantastic. Kamini, it's amazing how the AI is also redefining the way leaders operate now. So wonderful insights. Thank you so much. My next question, Kamini, is you have led finance functions across major organizations. So I want to know what have been some of the biggest lessons that you have carried forward from your journey.
Okay, so there are many of them, right? I mean, Neha, as we mature through our career, there's a lot that we learn along the way. But if I had to pick up two or three things, I think one thing that I would say is that say finance cannot operate in a silo at all, right? And I think we have to be true enablers from
Right.
an organization standpoint. So I really believe that finance partnering, strategic business partnering, is, I think, an extremely important element for any finance person to succeed. I think so. That's one key lesson that I've done, and I've truly enjoyed this role. This aspect of despite any role that I have taken anywhere, right? The second aspect of what I would say absolutely is that you have to embrace technology, what I spoke earlier, because that makes your life a lot more easier and then frees up a lot of time to do things that makes it easier for you to focus on key impacts from an organization standpoint. So I think that's the second theme that I've really carried wherever I go. In addition to the tech transformation program that I spoke about earlier, within finance, we are also running our own finance transformation program, looking at every opportunities in the entire chain that we can actually automate, simplify, and essentially use data analytics to make sure that we are able to work very effectively as a team. The third thing that I believe is that decision making should really be data driven, right? There is absolutely a gut instinct to it, but I think clarity around data makes sure that the conversations are a lot more factual, a lot more real. The emotions are left out the table, right? So that's one aspect of what I really do. The last but not the least, I would say, in fact, there are two things. I believe that there has to be proactive risk management in everything that we do, to do. And the most important thing is the teams, right? The teams is what makes us very successful. When you have a very good team, you empower your teams. I think they will really deliver to what you expect. In fact, they far exceed your expectations. So, in my view, these have really been the learnings in multiple roles. By and large, they have helped me in good stead wherever I have done in all my career options. And I see no reason as to why it will not in the future also.
Sure, fantastic. So to summarize, you mentioned how finance becoming the business partners is the key, then driving the transformation journey, data-driven decision making, and of course, proactive risk management. So wonderful. Thank you so much. So this brings
And the
us to
teams.
the
I should also mention the
teams.
teams. Sorry, Neha. I think that's something that I believe in a lot. So it's extremely important for me to call that out.
Absolutely, absolutely. So my last question in this segment, Kamini, is that the role of CFOs has evolved beyond just numbers now. So what new skills or mindset do you think finance leaders need today?
One of the things in a lot of panels that I've been, Neha, right, they say you should not be calling a CFO a chief financial officer anymore. He should be called the chief future officer, right? Because to some extent, I think it's a role of the CFO. And I think the pandemic has taught us that we really need to be able to sit back and predict, what really is going to happen in the future. And
Right.
how do we prepare our organization to be able to navigate through such situations? I think that's a very important role, and it is a very different mindset, right? Because, if you really look at traditionally, what are we trained for? We are trained to look at numbers, right? We are trained to make sure compliances are in place. So, one big shift that I think CFOs need to do today is to really have a strategic mindset, our ability to really understand what's happening in a business environment, and our ability to see what impact it would have on our business. And am I ready as an organization to be able to navigate some of the things? So, I think that's one key shift that I really see. The second aspect of what I mentioned across, I think technology is a great enabler. I think it's very important for CFOs today to be able to adopt to technology changes that they come in. In fact, embrace it full heartedly so that they're able to use it for the benefit of their organizations, right? I think that's an extremely important aspect that any CFO needs to do today. The third thing, which is very important, is I think continuous talent development, because at the end of the day, I think every leader can do extremely well depending upon the quality of the team and the kind of team that you have, right? So, in my mind, I think now CFOs really have to really work on these areas. And I think that would make a difference between a traditional CFO and probably, I would say, the chief future officer that we are looking at.
Sure, thank you so much. Truly intriguing, Kamini. So this brings us to the end of the Q&A. Now we are going to switch gears a little bit. There's going to be a rapid fire round, and this is
Wow. Okay.
just to know you a little bit better, a different side of you. So I'll post some questions, and I expect, if I may, some rapid answers. So are you ready?
Oh my God. Okay. Should I be worried? But yeah, I'll give my best.
Okay, fantastic. A book that has changed your perspective of finance or leadership.
See, I'm an avid reader, but the one that I really like is, the book with Simon Sinek, which said Start with Why. because it really defines and helps you relook at an organization. What is the purpose of really having an organization? And if you're able to work with people on a purpose-driven strategy or a vision, I think organizations will operate at a very different level. So, that's one book that really resonates with me.
Sure. One finance myth you wish people would stop believing.
Well, I wish people would understand that, finance people don't take risk. I think we take more than enough risk to that extent, and we don't understand business, right? I mean, the amount of risk that I've taken as a finance person is probably far more than I would have normally liked.
Sure. If you weren't in finance, what career would you have chosen?
Well, that's a difficult thing given that I've spent last 30 years in finance, but maybe something in the public service space, maybe IAS or some one of those things, because I really love that aspect of the area in terms of creating high impact. And that could be one area that I could think about.
Your go-to stress buster after a long day at work.
Well, I like to unwind. I just said that earlier, maybe reading a book, listening to music, or, sometimes just get into that quiet corner and not talk to anybody, right? That's probably my favorite thing to do.
Sure. A financial term that perfectly describes your personality.
Okay, that's a tough one. If I really need to think through on that piece, maybe I would say an asset to the organization or maybe ROI, right? These are probably terms that I could think through.
Sure. Wonderful. Tea or coffee? What's your pick?
Coffee, tea anytime, actually. But I started with coffee, but I just love tea. I'm addicted to it.
Okay. One piece of financial advice everyone should follow.
I think at the end of the day, I truly believe cash is king. I mean, you can do whatever you want elsewhere, but I think that's a final indicator of how well your business grows. If your cash balances are growing, I think one should be very comfortable about that.
Sure. A leader you admire and why?
One leader that I really admire, I think if I look at it, it's actually Warren Buffett. And there are two reasons on why I admire him. One is I think for his financial acumen, his ability to spot leaders right at the initial stages. I think that really makes a difference. And I think we know how successful he has been as a financial investor in a lot of the companies, right? And there's a lot to learn. In terms of his investing style and the way he do it. Most interesting than that also is what I've heard is that, he's in fact decided to give more than 99% of his entire wealth into philanthropy, right? And
Right.
I think those are very two different distinct aspects of a leader, and I think I really admire it. Creating the wealth, it's very easy to leave it for your future generations, but going ahead and saying that I'll give it all away to charity, I think needs a very different mindset. So, I really admire Warren Buffett for that.
Sure. Fantastic. Your favorite part about being a CFO?
I think it's about creating impact. I think what I really love about this job is you have an ability to touch almost every part of the organization to everything that you do. You have an ability to be able to influence decisions across the organizations, and I think that's something that really energizes me all the time.
Okay. Can you describe your leadership style in one word?
Inclusive.
Okay.
I think that's really my leadership style.
Sure, fantastic. So this brings us to the end, Kamini. That was quick and a sharp rapid fire round. Thank you so much. So this brings us to the end of the session, Kamini. Thank you so much on behalf of HRAI for sharing those wonderful insights. I personally had a pleasure of hosting you today. Thank you so much.
And yeah, thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. I think it was short and brief,
Sure.
and you kept it really engaging, and really had me thinking about things that one doesn't sit down normally and do that. It was a real pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. Our pleasure. Kamini, I'll just have a quick note to our listeners. Thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, do not forget to subscribe and leave a review. Until we meet next time, keep innovating and inspiring. Thank you.